right, let's give this a whirl. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. That loop's gonna suck. Oh well, here we go. Little hiccup in the loop there. Oh, I blanked there on the melody there, just in there. Well, you know, as I say in all these videos, you can't wait for perfect. So sometimes you just gotta get started. I love this tune. I've been playing. This is like one of the first tunes that I learned when I got to North Texas. Fred Hamilton, the teacher there, recommended it. All the students were playing it, so it's great, man. It's like a hip tune. It's you know, it's a little bit more vibey. Maybe it won't work at a wedding or something like that, or if you're at a country club, it might weird people out. But it's definitely a fun tune for jam sessions, and I just like it because there's a lot of cool sounds that it kind of, you know, they'll stay in one spot for a little bit. So let's kind of get into it. Oh, hey, just hit my microphone there. Let's see. All right. So that intro, I kind of took it off of this album, Like Minds. This is actually the recording that I learned it from. I think it's originally on Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. Let me double check. Yes. So that's a great Chick Corea album, but I do like this one. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah, this is like a super group. Pat Metheny plays the melody, and it takes a ripping solo. Everybody on this is it's just a stacked band. It's a Gary Burton's Like Minds album, so definitely check that out. But especially for Windows, definitely worth checking out. The way that tune starts is how I started it was Chick plays. I say Chick like he's my buddy Chick, my beer buddy. Chick, you know, Chick Corea starts off the intro. Now I know there's all this like alternating bass stuff, but just while it's on my mind, you know, some of it's cool, but there's nothing wrong with, at least, you know, when I've played this, no one's yelled at me yet. You can get rid of some of this alternate bass stuff. That's kind of cool. I mean, it is cool to like grab those, but you could just as easily just, you know, reduce this to where, you know, it's a Y. So the key is in B, right? So you're on the 4 chord. So that's like 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are all like 4 chords of major 7th, 3 chords of minor 7th, 2 chords of minor 7th. Those all diatonic. You skip over the B major 7th. You just do that on alternating bass. Right? Yeah. So I can just make that like a 4-bar 2-5. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. You know, no one's gonna fire you, and the bass player might handle that bass line thing anyways. I mean, if you want to, you can definitely work that out. It's cool, but I know we're doing a quick turnaround for this tune. By the way, this is for Aaron and Andrew. Is that right? Yes. Aaron and Andrew. Shout out to you guys. So I hope you enjoy this tune. I try to kind of like think of your guys' playing style and your personalities, and for some reason I just felt like this tune would be a good match for you. So let me switch this up so you can see my hands a little better. So you can do that walk. Maybe I'll draw some of those shapes so you can see what's going on there. What we're gonna do. Lots of chord voicings to get through, right? So since I'm on it, I'm gonna kind of Tarantino this one. I'm starting in the middle of the movie rather than the beginning. So let's see. Let's get this fired up. Split view. Get my iPad chops down. All right. So all right. Clear. Get out of that guy. Get out of there. All right. So I am finding about my playing that I don't really use a traditional E major 7th. I mean, that's a great place to start, and of course I'll use it once in a while, but I like going with the chordal voicing. That's 6/9. I just like that sound. It lays nice on the fingers, and it seems to work well in most. It's a very versatile shape because rather than going, I kind of go with a chordal voicing of D sharp minor. This would be technically D minor 11, but all I'm doing is literally just taking this shape and I'm lowering the root. Quartal, meaning like quarter, fourths. Quartal, works really well on guitar because guitar's tuned in fourths. But mostly when people talk about quartal harmony, I don't know if you can see that. That's supposed to be a Q. McCoy Tyner, the piano player that basically John Coltrane's piano player, he's really noted for like planing and using chordal harmony. But man, it works so well on guitar. So that's what I do for this. I switched to this voicing because I like my first finger to be there for the moving bass line. So we got C sharp minor 7. That would be this. And then if I wanted to do this, I'll put this in green. I don't know if you can hear that construction in the background. There's some people working on a roof next door. So you hear that chainsaw or whatever they call that. Buzzsaw. Stick to music, Matt. Definitely not. Definitely have to get my vocabulary if I'm going to go to a job site. Okay. So where were we here? B flat, half diminished. Now that walking bass line, the A flat, is going to be there. I probably won't grab the B string. I could just, right, and then that goes to a E7. I just play, a proper, like, I say proper, whatever. Like if you want to have all the, it would look something like this. There's not the only way, but. And if you dig that, I think it's a little bit. It's going by so fast. And it's cool because you keep this note on top. But I usually just go because I go with the root, right? Because that's kind of what goes on the melody, anyways. So. I would just use this. It's the stuff we talk about all the time. It's like, because the lead sheet says this particular thing doesn't mean you have to, if you don't grab every single note in that chord, it doesn't work. Now, sometimes you can reduce and simplify these voicings, And then, you know, it's the same walk down. It's the same walk down we did, only this time, rather than it being a half diminished. Now this does, that does lay nice. And then, but same shape. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. So, boom, boom. And then that would be a, I'm not writing the fret numbers. Hopefully by seeing my hand on the guitar, you can kind of piece together. Use your ears and eyes. And then you got this walk down. Now you could, now when you get to that C9-11, same deal. I could just do, you know, a regular C9 and that'll work, right? That'll resolve nicely to a D9, or you can do like a kind of a D minor 9 thing like this. Or, you know, that would be B minor 7. If you want the 9, you could put that there. That would make it minor 9, right? But man, another voicing that I really like a lot, and if we want to kind of follow the melody there, because we've got a sustained F sharp, right? So we use that shape like we did at the beginning, E7, and then that D minor 11, and then we would go with a C sharp 11. So that's going to be 9th fret. And a voice that I get a lot of mileage out of is that would be 8th fret. It has that root, the flat 7, the 9, and the sharp 11. You could make it just a regular C7, and that kind of having that sound on top has a certain aesthetic. To me, this is always played nicer with piano players. I feel like, you know, a lot of times if you're playing a big band or a group, you're trying to find voicings that you can be playing chords, but also are not going to be pissing the piano player off. And had a high success rate with that particular voicing. See if you can see that. So if I want to keep that melody F sharp on top, so all right. See, look. So, and then we're into the top of the tune. So let's talk about what's going on there. Lots of chords. I'm going to erase them. If you want to see them, just rewind the video. All right. B minor 9, B minor 7. I'm going to go with this guy. You can also go with like an open kind of thing. So that would be like 7th fret. If you want to go like open sounding, you could. I use this one all the time. I think I might have. You can make it into a 9. That's a nice sound too, right? Has the 11 on top there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so that's pretty cool. And now, this is cool. Reminds me of an old school trick that the guys that taught me. So with this guy, G sharp half diminished. If I take the notes of G sharp half diminished, G sharp, B, D, F sharp. What do you know? If I take this and move this over here, now you have a B minor 6. So a lot of times when people see a minor chord from B minor, like, you know, you can put A between it as a nice walk down. It's still kind of like B minor. It's just like, you know, so with the way they would say it is like, Matt, it's a B minor 6 with the 6th in the bass. All that to say is this is the shape you would use, but if you can even see it, if you can imagine, like if I put a B on top, you know, get rid of this guy here. Oh man, this is hilarious. Millennial dealing with technology. Come on, baby. There we go. Just the black doesn't show as well. Right? If you were doing like an indie songwriter version. I don't know if that sounds any. That's starting to sound more like Fiddler on the Roof. At any rate. All right, so. Anyway, where are we at here? Which is nice because that sets you up for a 2-5 to F sharp. So, and the thing that I always show people here, man, my color coding. I gotta get my color coding together. It's very, it's all over the place. I know it says C7. Since it's going to a minor chord, let's just assume sharp 9, flat 9 is in play. Right? Right? And you could resolve to like this version of an F sharp minor 7. But if you wanted to kind of like, you can also get those open strings in there. That's another reason why I like this tune. It's very guitar friendly keys, so we can get those open strings into. And it does do D9 sus. A lot of times I just think of that as an A minor, like the minor goes up a minor third. So the reason I think of that is if you look at kind of a D9 sus, this would be 5th fret. If I take this voicing over here and move it over there, all of a sudden it's an A minor. So a 9 sus is basically just a C triad, and it's like, is it a D in the bass or is it an A in the bass? But it's they're both the same sound. So so a lot of times I'll sub that out to an A minor, or turn that. And then what we got here? What's a good? I think on the demo thing, I got a little sub happy there. So I'll show you like a grip, and I'll kind of show you what I was doing. Let's see here. No, come on now. Need more coffee this morning. What is going on? There we go. There's the eraser. All right. So this is technically a 13 sharp 11 because you got the root, the 3, the 13, the 5th, and the sharp 11. But if you want to get a Lydian sound, again, guitar friendly, we got that low E. Pair the F sharp and E triads. So what I'm kind of doing there is, you've got like a root position triad, right? Right. If the nice thing is the way these work is we don't need this stinking ruler. There we go. If I move that up 2 frets, root position, right? Although a lot of times I like keeping those open B string. Talk about that next, the second inversion. The first inversion, I should say. God, I can't talk today. So this would be like E, and if I move that up 2 frets, that gives me F sharp. And then finally, you have your second inversion triad. Second inversion meaning the 5ths in the bass. So I was kind of messing around with it. Then we go to this kind of like bluesy, it's basically A flat 7, I mean, you can try to, the melody definitely nods to the A7, but You know, there's definitely, I've heard recordings where people can just, they're going by so fast that the listener, I think if you just play an A flat blues in that section, it kind of tracks. But, you know, but just looking at that melody, so kind of where that melody, the clue there is, it's kind of like that flat 6, if I'm thinking of. Kind of just find like ways to connect a Lydian dominant. You know, it's a good way I could. I'm all over the place. I know I was talking about chords, but I think at that point, you know, chording wise, we're kind of done. So maybe that works out naturally. We talked about the intro first, and then, you know, hopefully that A flat 7 to A7 business is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to start off with just, I'm going to put these side by side, right? I like starting with the, actually, you know what? Make them blue so that way the roots can be red. So that's like A flat Mixolydian, right? So your roots would be there. And then the A flat Lydian, so that'd be A flat Mixo. And then you, if you want to go A Lydian dominant, I can basically take this exact same business. And what I do is I sharp the 4th. Right, so I'm going to make those green. Right, so you can kind of see that, and I'll just erase the 4th. So what's kind of interesting as I'm looking at that, if I'm like going between, that sharp 11th is kind of the common note between, yeah, the two scales, right? I'm trying to think of what other notes are in common. So I think the only two notes that are like have in common with the other scale are this note and that note. So let me kind of get that going there. Get a better loop. Right, you know, you can try to so I noticed the melody, like, yeah, they really lean on that F sharp, E natural. But you can also just like, you know, kind of do like A flat bluesy kind of stuff, and that'll work there too. I'll leave that up to you. B minor is going to be basically the first 8 bars is all B Dorian. When it does go to that C7, you're kind of thinking, you could think F sharp harmonic minor. Right. But the whole, you know, Let's just focus on that first part. So D, Dorian, emphasize the 6, F sharp harmonic minor. I think A Dorian or D mixed Lydian. E Lydian. All right. So that first sound. And then that's kind of a cool thing if you blues out, and that kind of hints at that E sharp. You're gonna need to let to tonicize, right? So. So let me kind of talk about those scale shapes I'm getting. I highly recommend anybody starting out as a way to kind of get used to switching between different, like the cage system that we're doing, then, this is a good vehicle for that. So stay in one spot in the neck kind of forces you to do that. So if I'm thinking B Dorian, if you remember, Dorian is the second mode of the major scale. So if we think of B as the second note of A major, that gives us our shape. So what does that mean? So we're going here. Come on, let me just clear all this stuff out. So there you go. There's your Dorian right there. Boom. So let me switch this up here. I'm thinking, yeah, there you go. You probably. So the juicy notes there to me are the 6. I know this is, we're thinking in terms of A major. So if this was 2, this is actually the 6. And then the 9th are also nice notes to grab. So, if I'm just vibing out over. Right? So when I go to that C7, so in this case, we're going to see this shape, right? That would be like a C7, C sharp 7, sharp 9, right? C sharp 7, sharp 9. God, it's starting to look like a Wi-Fi password. All right, so we want to resolve the G minor. I don't know if this is helpful. This is kind of like starting to get a little messy, but I think that we always do. Sharp 9, flat 9. Well, you can add another half step above that. And then now you're in F minor. So at that point, I mean, honestly, part of me is wondering, let me see how that sounds. You could honestly get away staying in A. I mean, you could also make an argument that you would go to F sharp Dorian. So F sharp being the second note of E major. So that sounds cool, You get some. So, again, the juicy notes would be, so if this is our tonic, that's your 6th. There's your 6th. And then your 9ths are here. Just as a jazzer, if you're wanting to get some, colorful tones, So the sixth, right? And then now we're going to A Dorian. Keeping in the idea of staying in the same spot in the neck. A Dorian is, so A is the second note of blank major scale. G major scale. So we're going to go over to pattern 4. And we'll find our juicy notes as here as well. So we got our tonic for that. So now this makes it Dorian, A Dorian. This will be your 6th. This will be the 9th. Another 6. I think that's good. I don't like putting, the 9th would also be here, but sometimes if it's too low, it sounds weird. Sometimes if you do those extensions, you want to kind of keep it to medium or high range. It's not a rule, but just kind of a thought. So kind of to recap, A major, still an A major. I guess we can talk about this. So let's talk about C sharp altered. How are we doing on time? We're doing great on time. My other lesson's been running around 40 minutes. So, all right. So we got this guy. I'm gonna kind of. So there's your, there's the essence. Like say that's a C sharp 7 sharp 9, and all altered means that there's some kind of modification to the 5 sharper flat in the 9. It's kind of a catch-all phrase. I know, different things when you're chording, obviously you need to heed, if it says sharp 9, with tunes, there's a lot of leeway. But say, you're playing a big band thing or a film session or something where it's, very specific, then, yeah, sharp 9 chord. You don't want to put a flat 9 over a sharp 9. You don't want to put a 13 over a flat 5 chord, all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff. So, but most of the time when we're just playing tunes, people just say, yeah, C sharp altered. So here's how we can look at this. There's a couple ways. If I go up a half step and play that melodic minor, so C sharp altered equals D melodic minor. That's the shortcut, right? So if I got this in a D melodic minor, and if you don't know melodic minor, think of a D major, flat the 3rd. Everything else stays the same. But if you start, so a fancy way we would say that C sharp is C sharp altered. I think alter is the slang. I think it's technically called the Superlocrian. Ooh, Superlocrian. How about it? Is the 7th mode of D melodic minor. And I know melodic minor has an ascending version and a descending version. Like if you're in theory, a melodic minor ascends a certain way, then it comes back down a normal minor scale. So, but just so you know, every time someone's talking about a melodic minor scale, they're just talking about the ascending version. All right. So, if you remember, that equals a D major, flatting the 3rd. All right. So any major scale you have, you're one note away from turning that into a melodic minor. You just got to change one note. So there's a couple shortcuts. G major. Now E Lydian, if we're going to keep with this game, the same kind of idea. Lydian is the 4th mode. You can't see because I got the iPad there. 4th mode of major. So we can think of E as the fourth note of B major. So if you don't want to think of E major in like this sharp 4 business, I mean, I didn't like that when I was in high school. I love it now, but it took me a while to kind of learn to think that way. If you want to think, the shortcut would be just say B major. So let me get this lead sheet up here so you can kind of see what this is all B Dorian. Actually, so let's say A major, right? So that would be B Dorian. Ugh, terrible handwriting. This would be G sharp Locrian. Again, these are just all fancy ways of saying A major. You know, G sharp is the 7th mode of A major. B, that just means it's the 7th note. If you take the notes of an A major scale, you start and end on the 7th note, that's the 7th mode. If you start on the 2nd note, that's the 2nd mode. 2nd mode's Dorian. All right, so we're still there. Here, you know, you don't have to wait for this measure to go to C sharp altered. You know, you could probably start a little bit earlier. You know, maybe let this chord hit, you know, and then this would be, you could say A major or E major, which will give you F sharp Aeolian, or, you know, it's a fancy way of, am I spelling that right? Oh God, oh goodness gracious, they're gonna take my Aeolian, yeah, and then or E major would be Dorian. So choose there. This would be G major. If I look at it from D, it would be D Mixolydian. Or A Dorian. Those are all modes that are derived from G major. So this would be E Lydian, or you can look at it as B major. They will be the same collections of notes. The same collection of notes, I should say. All right. A flat 7, you can do A flat blues, you can do A flat Mixolydian, and then here, this is a similar deal to what we were running into. You know, you don't have to like think of a different scale for all these parts. You can kind of like brush over this. That's all B major, right? So if I'm looking at the, you know, this would be the 4 chord, this would be 3, 2, kind of walks past it, and that's a 7 diminished. That's all diatonic to B major. So you kind of have, and then right around here you have to start thinking about, maybe do, you know, since we're kind of in an alter mode, do an E flat altered. You know, just put E flat alt. And then, so this whole section here, you could probably think of it as A flat Dorian, D flat Mixolydian, or that can all be under the heading of G flat major. So, you know, this is a lot of jargon, but what I'm trying to get you to see is when you start getting into the world of 2/5s, you know, we can. It's important to know about the modes and stuff, but really, a lot of it is these changes are going by so fast. So I'm not thinking of a different scale. I'm trying to create melodies, so I kind of think anymore. It becomes like just like a sound, you know, a sound from coming from a scale. And we work on our arpeggios to get through that. And we didn't really do arpeggios today. We were thinking, you know, maybe I could do that real quick so you can see what that looks like. I still recommend starting with arpeggios because that gives you the bones of it. And then between that and knowing what scale goes with it, you kind of, it gives you like a good idea of the full picture. So, and then at this point, the ending of the tune goes to B all the way up to, so that would be B major. This is going to be C Lydian dominant. So the good news is if you've done any work in for altered, that work can translate to Lydian dominant. So they are kind of they go hand in hand here. Let's see if I can get this guy going. All right. Let's see here. What's a good way to explain this? So the three main modes that you're going to use for melodic minor, obviously you have C here. Let's talk about D melodic minor. Believe me, trust me, I know where I'm going with this. And then that would be C sharp altered. And then you have, this would also be G Lydian dominant. So let's kind of start with just the scale. So I'm going to kind of like, just going to draw the scale this way. So let's say that's your root. And so you can kind of see it. It is that major scale that I just flatted the third, right? Hopefully this kind of looks like, so if I were to take this, move this here, take this, move this all the way up here, what do you know? That looks like our C shape major scale, but I've flatted the third, and I flat this third. Now I have melodic minor, right? And that would kind of work with like a, you could do a D minor 6 shape over that, Right? Then you got, if I were to take the same collections of notes, try something here. Can I change them? Yes, I can. Oh, look at that. I love it. Technology. So if I were to change the root to base off the 7th, what do you know? Now we have like kind of our altered sound. So like that would be like a C. Right? Right, that's just one spot to work on that. If I, again, one more time, if I take these, and I do my little trick, love it. Gotta love it. That's right. Now you got a G Lydian dominant. So, let's see, a common chord shape would be like, I don't know, something like this. So I'm going to set up a vamp here. I'm going to do 4 bars of each. I'm going to do a bar of D minor 6, a bar or 4 bars of C sharp altered, and then 4 bars of G Lydian dominant. G and Lydian. I should clarify that. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go to C7 altered, C sharp 7, C sharp altered. So I'm just kind of doing a C sharp 7, sharp 9, then D, G. I might as well go back to D minor, round it out. Then eventually you get free, you learn it across the neck. But, with anything, you got to walk before you can run. And our version of walking, I think, is just, hey, man, stick in one part of the neck, get comfortable with that, then maybe start expanding. So to tie that back to our tune, to kind of like tie it into like some theory work here. Let's see, where's my, oh yeah, how am I doing this? I did this. Great. So where's a I can't talk today. A situation where we have this. Let me clear this up. All right, so let's do this. We're going to play a game. We're going to have melodic minor, altered, and then Lydian dominant, right? So right here, we have a C sharp. So I'm going to pause for a second. Well, we just did this one, so we'll make this the example, right? So and that would be G Lydian dominant. So what we're thinking here is this the first note of the melodic scale. This is the 7th mode of melodic minor. This is the 4th mode, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. 4th mode of melodic minor. All right. Let's find another one where we could use that shape. You know, we could make this into A7 Lydian dominant. Really, we were talking about that earlier, right? So if we make this A, pause the video, see if you can work your way through it. So if A is the 4th note of what melodic minor scale? So work your way backwards. A few more seconds. Okay. So 4, flat 3, 2. So that would be E, the Bond chord, the James Bond chord. E melodic minor. So, and if we know that, then the 7th note of E melodic minor is D sharp or E flat. Most likely with C, E flat alt. So this brings up the idea of tritone sub. So I'm really on one today. But whatever. This is kind of one of the first lessons I've really gotten to talk about this stuff. So it's kind of fun for me. So much fun. All right. So let's change this to, you know, you can create like kind of cool chords, right? I'm going to like, so if I went with the red, that's an altered shape. If I make the green my root, that's a cool little minor 6-9, right? D minor 6-9. Now that's C, that's a 7 sharp 9, right? Ugh. And then finally, with our blue, that's going to be a 13 chord. You know, a 13. You know, the sharp 11th's implied. When you play the scale, you'd have that sharp 11 up here, you know. So the idea is like I can take these 3 notes and by just changing the bass sound. And if you notice this relationship here, anytime we're doing tritone subs, you know, that's a whole, you could fill a whole hour just talking about that. But I'm keeping these top 3 notes the same. But there you go. So that's why altered and Lydian dominant are like, you know, they go hand in hand. It's just depending on like how you usually want to resolve it. If it's a Lydian dominant, most of the time it's resolving down a half step. So I think of like, if I want to think of like going from like, you know, G13, or in this case, A13, like when we are tuned down to A7, it helps me to think in Lydian dominant. But I could just as easily go in between E flat 7 or E flat altered. That's a different sound too. But I still probably would. Something in my head, I like the idea of resolving down a half step. You might be different, but those are 2 ways of looking at the world. Let's go back to our lead sheet and finish it up. Is there any other ones we can find? What's going on here? Oh, I see what I've done now. Where is Windows? There we go. So that's an altered. And then we figured that out. A7, Lydian dominant. So it's the same as E, a melodic minor, or E flat altered. And then we got, let's call this, you know, if we want to turn that into an altered, E flat alt would be the same as, pause the video. So E flat is the 7, oh, let's call it D sharp. It'll be easier to think of it as D sharp. D sharp is the 7th note of E, melodic minor, or A Lydian dominant. And you can do that all the time. Like, see, so I'm thinking about this part of the, when I get to here, I could sub that out for an A7 sharp 11. So, right, that happens a lot, you know. later substitution. All right, and then finally we got C Lydian dominant, which would be what melodic minor and which altered. So C is the fourth note of, work your way back, 4, flat 3, 2, F sharp melodic minor. Or no, what am I doing here? G melodic minor. All right, time to go for a walk, man. I've been making a bunch of videos. My brain's going numb here. So G melodic minor, or it could be F sharp altered. So, you know, start kind of practicing this way of thinking. It's not, you know, eventually what happens is you have to go through this phase where you're learning the theory and you have to kind of build that mental acuity to go between this stuff. But eventually what ends up happening is it's just a sound. It's a sound that, like, okay, what do I want to put in the bass note? But really it's this kind of like sense of tension that resolves somewhere, right? So sometimes they can be sounds within themselves, but most of the time in this, they're resolving somewhere. They are going somewhere. So, all right, wow, 51 minutes. This might be the longest video I've done so far. So, if you stuck with it, I don't know whether to say thank you or I'm sorry. So, hope you got something out of that. And any questions, leave a comment on the video. Maybe I'll see that, or just shoot me an email or talk to me in class. All right, go practice. See you later.